Hi, this is Elcam. Welcome back to my channel. I'm in front of the Christmas tree in Inglewood City Hall in Inglewood, New Jersey. Of course, tonight's story is about an event that took place 11 years ago on December 26, 2010. And how the city officials in New York City, in New York State, did a major screw-up that led to a big disaster for commuters on Sunday and Monday morning. Our story goes, of course, to December 25th, 2010. Now, I remember I had one of those, BlackBerry phones back then. I was at a Christmas party at a friend's house, and the phone keeps going off. From one of the local newscasters. Well, actually, it was the weatherman. You don't know who it was at the time that night, but the numbers were increasing. There was originally a small snowstorm that was approaching, but as I went by through the day and then evening, the numbers kept going up and up and up. It went from a few feet to 10 feet, then from 10 to 15, then before and then it's 20 and 23. At last I checked, and I'm saying to myself, okay, now New York City Transit should have a plan in place to deal with this. So when I get there the next day, you know, we do what's supposed to do, you know, whatever we had to do to get the trains moving, or keep moving. Unfortunately, for some reason, and you see my eyes are like this, it seems the city and the state officials and New York City Transit just didn't get their act together at all. Well, they didn't declare an emergency until 11 o'clock the next morning on December 26th. And unfortunately, when they declared the emergency, the snow was already starting to come down as I was leaving for it. So, New York City Transit also had another problem. They had a cab on overtime for senior people. That means a lot of people on the work trains weren't allowed to work during the storm, and it may have impacted the snow removal, which is probably why the trains were all stalled the way they were on that night, on December 26th. So there was a lot of trains were stalling from Brooklyn to Queens, all over the areas where there were either elevated lines or open cut, like Sea Beach, Brighton, or a few other places. I'm sure the F line didn't make it too well either. So, because of the overtime cap, there wasn't enough people available to, to clear snow on these diesel trains. Now, some media people were upset. They said, oh, they should have canceled the vacations on the employees and made them come to work early and so they could deal with the snow. They didn't declare an emergency till 11 o'clock that morning. So this is not the employees' fault, it's management's fault. It is the city's fault and even the government's fault, city and the state. So they didn't take this thing as seriously as they should have. Of course, they're going to say otherwise, but the fact was, the results speak for themselves. Streets were being plowed. You know, that was bad enough. As some people were accusing the mayor of that, Bloomberg back then. But we're talking about New York City Transit. Why they didn't do what they were supposed to do. Well, for starters, I think the reason why they didn't cancel the vacations for that time period was 5 years ago, as you may know, there was a 2005 transit strike. They canceled vacations for that. And they end up paying big because the arbitrator in 2006 went against New York City Transit and said, well, you did that in 1980 and you weren't supposed to do that. So you ended up having to return the money that people were being fined tail law wise. They were on vacation legally, and therefore may have to compensate them later on. So they weren't about to do this again in 2010 to the dismay of the media. But the fact was, they didn't do their job. Trains were being stalled all over the place, and some passengers ended up suing New York City Transit years later and getting a settlement. So the moral of the story is, you know, when the weather is supposed to be telling you 23 inches of snow, it's supposed to act right away, not wait till the last minute like they did. I had a tough time walking home because there's no trains. I had to walk from Bedford Park all the way to 219th Street in the Bronx. That wasn't an easy feat. And I still remember some guy complaining, oh, where's all the transit employees who wanted a raise? Where are they? Where are they? Like it's our fault. No. I told him, hey, they're in bed like you should be. And he keeps complaining. I said, oh, shut up and walk. The D-line ain't that far. So this is Al Ken saying so long for now. And don't forget to stop, and happy holidays.